and welcome back to the show. Yes, I'm temporarily taking over for this, and also I might add the next episode. Technically for specials, you know. But since I'm on hand more readily for today and the next week, I will be doing a few Halloween specials of my own. First, of course, is going to be today's titular movie, Halloween 2. Now, I did the first one back in my last season for the Halloween special, and, yeah, I really like the original. I actually find there are quite a few more flaws in the remake than there are in the original film. And if you're going to make a lot more flaws, then why make a remake at all? I mean, come on. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, whereas the first one is a classic, the second one is a little, We still have Deborah Hill and John Carpenter as producers, as well as writers for this thing, but instead, for a director, we have Rick Rosenthal. Okay, Rick has a few good things on his, achievements, if you will, as a director, but horror movies are not his strongest point. This is probably his best horror movie attempt ever. He also did TV shows like Buffy. He did a couple episodes there, and I think there's a couple other things of note. But the other thing to really note is he did Halloween Resurrection. And that is one of the biggest Halloween turds, which I will get to at some point. Whereas right now, this is a Halloween special, and we're going to be talking about Halloween 2, his first attempt into the franchise. And how did it go? Well, plot first. It's still the same night, and we also start off with some remixed footage of both new stuff as well as the end of the original film. We get Michael getting shot out of the balcony. We get Loomis coming out outside to check where Michael had landed, and we still get a partial imprint of where his body was. Loomis then runs off to find the sheriff, and they continue to hunt for Michael. Meanwhile, Michael himself is on the loose already, and despite having taken a few chest wounds, he picks up a knife from a nearby neighbor's house and walks off with it. After picking up this knife, he actually also kills the neighbor girl next door because, well, she kind of got in his way for a few minutes. And she's alone, so why not? Bonus points. The police continue to search for Michael, even having a minor interruption when a high school kid, dressed up in a very similar outfit to Michael's, gets accidentally hit by a police car, rammed into the back of a truck, and killed in an explosion which burns him instantly to death. Unable to tell if that was truly Michael or not, they decide to have a look at him further. The only way they're going to be able to tell who it was is by checking dental records. Long story short on that, a little while later, some of the high school kids actually come up to Loomis and the sheriff's partner, and they express their worry about Ben Tramer, a guy who Laurie was interested in, I might add, was apparently drunk at a party and wandered off, still wearing a strange mask and outfit, quote-unquote. To which Loomis's remark is, you might as well check his dental records. And I don't blame him because it's quite disgusting how ill-fated things have been going this night. While they are continuing to try and find out where Michael has gone, Michael has been wandering around town, slowly picking up what little information he can here and there. Hearing about news of his exploits being discovered, and then also finally find out that the survivor, his sister, and yes, they point blank say it in this movie, his sister has been taken off to a hospital. He then begins his slow march there to begin slaughtering everyone at the hospital in order to get at Laurie. Meanwhile, in fact, we go back to Laurie Strode, who spends most of this time either in a bed or slowly limping around the hallways, trying to find a way to escape. And that's about her part in this. Poor Jamie Lee Curtis is stuck with bandages and limping around a hospital. And by the way, as far as I can tell, this is not a real hospital. But if it is, then they were allowed to do a hell of a lot of shit in this thing. Let's just say that the end of this movie is a bit explosive. Yes. But nonetheless, she spends a lot of time doing practically nothing. And Michael's the only one that's actively out doing stuff. He slays a few people in his path. He gets to the hospital, starts picking off the staff one by one, including the only security guard for an entire hospital, and then starts taking off the other staff, including the head doctor of the hospital, who's already a drunken SOB. So I highly doubt that it was much of a hard kill for Michael. But I will add that what little Laurie can do is actually get a slight hint of romantic interest in one of the ambulance drivers who brought her to the hospital, who apparently has a brother that's also in her school. But, I think that's about all we really need to cover. So, going from story, characters. Again, one of the things I happen to notice with older movies, as compared to more present movies, is that characters, even when they're douchebags, are at least partially redeemable. Yes, we have another ambulance driver, who I did not mention, who's a complete and total dickwad douchebag. But at the same time, he has this kind of heart of gold sort of thing going on with one of the other nurses, who is romantically interested in him. As a matter of fact, they go to schmooze around naked inside one of the therapeutic hot tubs in the hospital. You don't see anybody even nearly that redeemable in half the horror movies anymore, and then you wonder why some of us don't even care. You wonder why it starts turning into a root for the villain thing, even though the villains are probably the most unrealistic things in your movie. At least they're not douchebags. There's nothing else, they're killing these people because they're douchebags. They deserve it. But then you come back to 1981 and you see this film, and it's like, well, why aren't there more characters like that? Because they don't get it, as far as I can tell. I don't know. I think the biggest problem in Hollywood right now, especially when it comes to horror movies, is that they see horror movies as a way to spend a little money and make huge amounts back for it. But the problem is they don't understand how to write proper nuance and make realistic characters. Which you also run into the same similar problems with, say, a miniseries written by Stephen King. If you don't believe me, just ask Nostalgia Critic. He'll tell you. Just look at his Stephen King stuff. He's brutally honest for you people. Please, trust me on that one. But outside the characters, the acting is pretty damn stellar all around, which means that the director knew what he was doing. We also managed to get John Carpenter and Deborah Hill getting us some decent locations, some decent sets. As again, I would assume this hospital has to be set, at least on the inside. And the director still continues to give us some decent camera angles and stellar work all around, because there are some nice angles here and there, and there's some really eerie, dramatic moments throughout the film. So even though the film's major problem feels like it's not advancing. However, in lieu of not advancing, at least keeping things proper and giving us what we want and more of it is not a bad thing. About the only thing that really seems to have advanced more since the previous movie is that Jamie Lee Curtis's hair is less ridiculous. Happens. But also, we have a hell of a lot more blood this time. Because, other than maybe 2 shots in the entirety of the original Halloween, there was fuck all for blood. And this one, we have an entire freaking floor coated in this one. Trust me, folks. We got more blood. This is, at least horror-wise, this is a slight improvement. But plot-wise, it doesn't seem to really succeed any further than what the previous movie did. And it's obvious that John Carpenter was not feeling it. Even while writing, he admits that he felt like he was making the same damn movie again and started resorting to smoking and liquor in order to push himself further towards finishing the script. To help keep at least some sort of creative juices flowing, even though it was alcoholic juice. And you can kind of feel his pain, especially during the slow moments where Laurie has to wander around. Because you have to imagine even the director and a couple other staff are just kind of like, why? Why are we prolonging this? This is so slow and boring. Who's gonna watch this? Oh god, let's try and find a way to at least keep it moving fast, shall we? So, while, again, the advancements in storytelling and plot have not really furthered that much, other than the fact that we have now pinpointed that Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' younger sister, which, if you watch the television version, you already got that pretty blatantly, and with not having seen that extra footage, you might get a sense of that might be the case, even while you're watching the original cut. They've at least managed to advance the plot a little bit, although it probably would have been better to have set something else up, because this doesn't quite mesh with what we wanted for a sequel. It needed to have a bigger, more advancement furthered for the series. Instead of just being trapped in houses, we're trapped in a hospital. It kind of seems like a little bit of a step backwards, honestly, other than a few location shots, which don't really amount to much other than, oh look, it's that corner again. But otherwise, if you enjoyed the first Halloween at all, Halloween 2 is not a bad sequel place. Again, it doesn't really do much new, but it at least doesn't fuck things up. Now, I can only be worried about the next movie, but, for now, I'm not doing Halloween 3. I'm going to go on to something else. And you might be interested in seeing this because, it's got a little bit of a backstory as to why I need to do it, too. I'll see you all next time.